Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Saturday, July the 13th. For this video, I'm just going to be looking at the night slate. There are two slates today. There is a 3-game early, but I'm not going to be covering that since it's only 3 games. We're just going to take a look at the night slate, cover these 11 games, talk about pitching on DraftKings, where I want to go. There's a lot of good pitching at the top. We have 6 guys over 10K on DraftKings for this slate. So there's a lot of top-tier pitching to target. There's some good value that I like as well. A couple 6K guys, 5K guys that really stand out as value plays you can consider. And then obviously, since it's a big slate, we're going to have plenty of ways to go with the bats. Coors game with a 7.3 implied run total for the Rockies, 6.3 for the Reds. Definitely can look for bats there. A couple other high totals, a couple teams with over 5 totals on this slate. We're going to start off with pitching, start off there. Just before we do get started, I would appreciate it if you guys would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But at the top of the pitcher-player pool, Charlie Morton, our most expensive option today. He's 11,800. He's in a really good spot. He gets to face the Orioles. But at 11,800, this is just not a price tag I feel like I have to pay for Charlie Morton. If you just look at some of the other guys we have on this slate for like 1,000 cheaper, you have Chris Sale. Even though he's in a tough spot, it's still Chris Sale, one of the best pitchers in the league, facing the Dodgers. You even got Trevor Bauer at home against the Twins. You could possibly consider even like Matt Boyd for 700 less against the Royals. I wouldn't mind going to. Charlie Morton, I expect to have a good game. I don't think he's going to struggle here, but I don't feel like I need to pay nearly 12K for him on this slate. I just don't know if he gives me that 35, close to 40-point game that I'm kind of going to need at that price tag. And then Patrick Corbin at 11.4 is just not a guy I'm considering. Tough spot against the Phillies. He's really expensive. There's just other guys I'd rather play. I'm really focused on the 3-man pair of Boyd, Bauer, and Sale. I think Chris Sale's going to be my favorite of those 3 guys. I don't expect him to be that popular today because it is a tough matchup for him pitching against the Dodgers. But Chris Sale is still one of the best pitchers in the league. Dodgers don't have a high total, just a 4 implied run total. There are some strikeouts in this lineup versus lefties. You can get some Ks from like Kike, Austin Barnes, Corey Seager, Max Muncy versus lefties. They do have A.J. Pollock back and David Freese back, 2 pretty good hitters versus lefties. But David Freese, I'm not really worried about facing a guy like Chris Sale. I expect Freese probably struggles against Chris Sale. I'm kind of just relying on the talent of Chris Sale here outweighing the matchup. I know it's a tough spot, but 10.5 for Sale when you have guys like Morton for 1,500 more almost just doesn't really make much sense to me. I feel like any slate that Chris Sale is on, he should be one of the most expensive pitchers. And the fact that he's like the 4th most expensive pitcher, I think the 5th most expensive pitcher today, just makes him a clear option for me. I think he has just as much upside as all the guys priced around him. Could easily be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate, even in a tough matchup. And then you have like Bauer and Boyd, who I do like. Probably go Boyd number 2, Bauer number 3. But I still do prefer Chris Sale over those guys. Then once you get past these 10K pitchers, there's not much that I really like in the mid-range. Like a lot of these guys have in tough spots. Mike Minor having to face the Astros in Texas. Chris Paddock having to face the Braves. Bumgarner facing the Brewers in Miller Park. Don't really see myself going to the mid-range. I feel like a lot of my builds today are going to include one of these 10K and above pitchers, and then going cheap for one of these value plays. So there's a couple guys I like for value. First off, Julio Teheran at 6,600 I think is a really good cheap option you can pair with Chris Sale. You pair those 2 guys together, you're still left with 4,100 remaining per player, which you should definitely be able to work around. So I like this matchup a lot for Teheran, getting to face the Padres, a right-handed heavy lineup. We know Teheran just throughout his career has always been better versus righties than lefties. He does struggle more to lefties than he does to righties. But he'll be facing a lot of righties here, most likely 7 or 8 right-handed hitters. Pretty good strikeout matchup as well. The Padres will strike out versus righties. Teheran has faced them once this year. He did give up 4 runs through 7 innings, but he was able to get 8 strikeouts and pick up a win. He got 20 DraftKings points earlier this year when he faced the Padres. Now he's facing them in Petco, a pretty favorable pitcher's park, really cheap price tag on Teheran. I think he does stand out as one of the better value plays. I think you could easily see him go for 20 DraftKings points again. I played a lot of him on the last slate where he was facing the Marlins. He got 21 DraftKings points. He was dirt cheap at 6,600. Just went out there and got the job done. 6 innings, only 5 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. Could easily see Tayron putting up a similar performance as he did in his last game against the Marlins. So I really like him as a value play. And then there's a couple more guys you can consider. Brad Keller at 6K at home against the Tigers is definitely in play for me. I don't think Brad Keller is that good of a pitcher, but the Tigers are also not that good of an offense. Brad Keller is also dirt cheap at 6K, so he's a guy you could look to for a value pitcher. Also, Zach Davies, kind of the same thing. Zach Davies is not that good of a pitcher, but the Giants are also not that good of an offense. Davies is very cheap at 5,400. He's another guy you could consider. I expect a lot of my builds, like I said earlier, are going to include one of the 10K guys, and then they're going to include either Tayron, Keller, or Davies. I'm going to be mixing in those three value guys with some of my favorite plays at the top. Mostly Sale, Bauer, and Boyd I'm going to be playing, but I'm sure I'll have a few lineups with Charlie Morton, but I don't expect him to be a core play. But now let's talk about some hitters, where we can go to for bats. So I do want to start off with the Rockies. They have the highest total on the slate. They're in a great spot facing Tanner Roark in Coors Field. 7.3 implied run total for the Rockies. Roark is a pitcher that has always struggled with lefties just throughout his career. So Charlie Blackmon, David Dahl, Daniel Murphy, Ryan McMahon, I think these are some of the best plays of the slate. Love Charlie Blackmon, even though he's very expensive at $5,500. Going with Tayron as a cheap SP2 does allow you to fit Blackmon in. We know Blackmon is just so good at home in Coors, especially versus righties, just crushing the ball this year. Been a great hitter overall, 330 average, 20 home runs. Really talented hitter, ton of power, gets on base. He can steal bases as well. Does have 2 stolen bases on the year, a little bit of speed. But Roark gives up home runs to lefties. Now he's going to have to face a lot of really good lefties in Coors Field. So I expect Roark struggles, going to be loading up on the Rockies. Love Charlie Blackmon, love David Dahl as well. I really like David Dahl's price. He's only $4,500, which just feels way too cheap. He feels like one of the best overall point per dollar plays on the slate. Obviously, the Rockies in a great spot here, 7 implied run total. Roark, like I said, struggles with lefties. Going to want to get as much exposure to the Rockies today as I can. Ranking these guys, I think my favorite plays would definitely be Blackmon and Dahl. But Arenado at only $4,900, I think is a really good play. Daniel Murphy at $4,300 feels like a really good play. Desmond's pretty cheap at $4,100. McMahon's only $4K. I'm not sure what Raimel Tapia's price is, but if he cracks the lineup, I'm pretty sure he's really cheap. He could definitely be a guy you would look to. He's only $4K. The Rockies are not that expensive. They're kind of easy to get to. If you go with a cheap SP2 like Tayron or Keller or Davies, you could probably fit the Rockies in with them. But I do like those two Rockies a lot. And then a one-off that I like, don't expect myself to be stacking the Cardinals much, but Matt Carpenter leading off for only $3,800 against Merrill Kelly, I do like a lot. So Merrill Kelly, definitely a guy that struggles with left-handed hitters. Obviously, Matt Carpenter, a ton of power versus right-handed pitchers, 10 home runs on the year. Did come back from the IL. He came back from the IL after the All-Star break. He was in the lineup on Friday. I imagine he's going to be in the lineup here on Saturday. And I really like him leading off at only $3,800. He just feels like a really good value play, really good cash play if you're playing cash games. If you're doing 5-man stacks and you're doing a 5-2-1, as a one-off, he just feels like a really good play at only $3,800. Even though the Cardinals do have a low total, I could see playing some of these guys, especially the top of the lineup with how cheap they are. Don't really think you need to play Tyler O'Neill or Dexter Fowler or Wieters or Wong, but if you want to do a 3-man stack or a 4-man stack of the Cardinals, I think it could work with Carpenter at only $3,800. Jose Martinez is dirt cheap. Paul DeJong is dirt cheap. Paul Goldschmidt is really cheap at $3,700. You could definitely do a 4-man Rockies and a 4-man Cardinals, or a 5-man Rockies, 3-man Cardinals, and probably still fit in expensive pitching because the Cardinals are so cheap. But Matt Carpenter is the guy that I really like. If I'm going to Cards bats, he stands out the most, leading off at $3,800 against a pitcher that really struggles with left-handed hitters. But these are my 5 plays today, guys, for this 11-game Saturday night slate. Now let's take a look at some stacks that I'll be going to. Then we'll look at some BVP plays before we end the video. So my favorite stack today by a landslide is the Rockies. Just love them here versus Tanner Roark. 7.3 implied run total. Just feels like a really good spot. And then on the other side, you can definitely play guys versus Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland, before he went on the IL, was really struggling. I'll pull up his game log real quickly. He had some really rough outings. Just every time he stepped on the mound, it felt like he was just getting crushed. Against the Phillies, 3 runs, didn't even get through 2 innings. Against Baltimore, 4 innings, 10 hits, 7 runs. Against Arizona, before he went on the IL. 3 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs. Was really struggling before he went on the IL. Now he has to face the Reds in Coors Field, a Reds team that does have some power versus lefties. Nick Senzel, Suarez, Puig, Jose Iglesias, some of the guys you could look to from the Reds. But if I'm just choosing one team between these two, the Rockies are going to be the team that I definitely go to the most. But now some of the other teams we can target. Mike Minor, a really good pitcher, definitely, but you could look to some Astros bats versus Mike Minor. I imagine Jose Altuve is still really cheap. I'll pull up his pricing real quick, or pull up the pricing for the Houston bats. Yeah, Altuve is only $3,600. That just feels like a really good play. Bregman's $4,600, Gurriel's $4,300, Springer $4,700. Definitely could look to some Astros bats versus Mike Minor if you do want to go there, especially given the fact the game's being played in Texas in that Texas heat. But that's probably it for me for stacks. Some mini stacks of the Cardinals I think makes sense because of how cheap they are. But let's go ahead and talk about BVP real quick before we end the video. So there's actually quite a bit of BVP plays today. I'm just going to cover the ones that really stand out to me. So Francisco Lindor gone 6 for 17 with 2 home runs off Jake Odorizzi. Nelson Cruz 7 for 14 with the home run off of Trevor Bauer. Max Kepler 11 for 34, 3 home runs off of Trevor Bauer. Ryan Braun 11 for 37, 2 home runs off Mad Bum. Ryan Zimmerman 8 for 29, 2 home runs off Aaron Nola. Yuli Gurriel 7 for 18, 2 home runs off of Mike Minor, and George Springer 9 for 20 with a home run off of Mike Minor. So those are just some BVP plays for today, guys. I think that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button down below, and make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.